Good morning. Today I want to do part two of the Lunar Month for countries and people from August 4th through September 2nd. And part two will cover, I believe, Putin, Russia, Ukraine, King Charles, uh, Princess Kate Middleton, the United Kingdom, and Pope Francis. So let's see if I can share my screen here and we will get started. As always, it just takes a couple of minutes to get everything going here. Let's see, I've got to hide some panels so that I can see what I'm doing. So just bear with me. And we're ready. The Lunar Month for Countries and People, Part 2. Putin, Russia, Ukraine, King Charles, Kate Middleton, United Kingdom, Pope Francis, August 4th through September 2nd. So we'll begin with Vladimir Putin. And he has a balance of challenges and lifelines being thrown at him in this lunar month. And as usual, I'll begin for each country or person by showing a buy wheel uh, where I have the chart for that country or person on the inside, and then the transits at the time of the full moon on the outside. And this full moon occurs on August 19th, which is also the day that the Democratic National Convention starts. And that's going to be interesting for them. I've talked about that in some other videos. So anyway, I'll start each country or person with a chart like this, a buy wheel, and then I'll go on to a bar graph like this, which will show you when each of the aspects I talk about will be in effect and when they might become exact. And because the next lunar month begins on September 2nd, we'll always be looking pretty much at just this part in August. Okay, now what are Putin's challenges right now? Well, he still has transiting Chiron opposite his natal Mercury, and that suggests some sort of wounding to him, most likely. It could be physical wounding, it could be mental wounding, since his natal Mercury is conjunct his natal Neptune. Uh, he could be wounding himself through his fantasies or his own delusional thinking. The danger, of course, is that with all the power that Putin has, when he gets wounded, he can turn around and then wound others in return. Now, he also has actually both transiting Saturn and transiting Jupiter, making sesquiquadrats to his natal ascendant. This is going to cause him both frustration and problems with growth. He will be frustrated, most likely, that he can't achieve all of his personal ambitions here, or I should say, achieve what he wants to achieve for the homeland. Saturn's in the fourth house, not the fifth house. And he could be concerned over the growing number of deaths of Russian soldiers in Ukraine and the difficulty in obtaining resources at times from allies and other people. So Putin is going to have his own wounding going on this month. And let's see, Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Gemini is entirely contained in that eighth house, and that has to do both with death and resources of others. So those things are going to be doubly highlighted this month. Putin will experience wounding. He's going to experience some frustrations and difficulty with growth. But on the good side, transiting Chiron is going to trine natal Pluto. Pluto rules his first house. It's in his 10th house of status and power in society. Chiron, in this case, is going to provide more healing than wounding. So this is going to help cement his status and power within Russian society. And transiting Saturn, let's see, it is going to be making a trine to natal Uranus, which is in his ninth house. So he probably will get some help, some kind of help from allies and other countries, which will help sustain Russia's homeland. And transiting Jupiter is going to be trine natal Saturn. This is going to create a good balance between growth and expansion. I'm sorry, growth and regulation in Putin's life. So his long-term plans will probably be sustained. Now, over here with Saturn in the fourth house, uh, I talked about this with regard to the homeland. Well, this is because he is the president of Russia, the leader of Russia. And so his fourth house represents not only his own personal space, but he sees the whole country as his personal space. So both are going to be affected beneficially by this Jupiter trine natal Saturn. And here you can see when each of these aspects will be in effect. And the uh, two longest lasting ones are Chiron opposite his natal Mercury. That becomes exact on August 24th. Starts to fade, but slowly, and continues into the next lunar month. And transiting Chiron trine his Pluto, that is going to be gaining in strength throughout this lunar month and becomes exact in the next lunar month on September 8th. So you'll have both these influences going on at the same time, but as the lunar month continues, his status and power are going to be healed more and more. And right at the beginning of the lunar month on August 4th, Saturn is making that trine to his Uranus. Let me go back here. And let's see. That is going to be when he's most likely to get some help uh, from other people. Maybe not in terms of the resources he wants, but in terms of agreements, treaties, and advice from them. But Saturn sesquiquadrate, his ascendant, that is strongest on August 8th. And Jupiter sesquiquadrate, his ascendant, is going to be exact on the 25th. Okay, now if we look at Russia, uh, Russia and the Russian people are likely going to have a lot more problems this month than Vladimir Putin. And surely they are going to be affected by these economic sanctions more than Putin and the elite will be affected. So let's see, we still have transiting Pluto opposite the natal ascendant. This can represent oppression from other countries and refers most likely to both economic sanctions and alliances that are helping Ukraine uh, fight the Russian invaders. But it's the Russian people who are going to feel this oppression the most. Transiting Saturn is going to be squaring natal Mars. So people are going to feel frustrated and get very angry as a result. And since transiting Saturn is going through the eighth house, which has to do with death and resources from others, I imagine that the Russian people are going to get increasingly frustrated over the mounting death toll of their sons in Ukraine. And they're going to probably may get frustrated that they're not getting more resources from countries that Russia has allied themselves with. And that's going to tend to make them personally angry. We have transiting Pluto, sesquiquadrate, natal Jupiter. This is going to, let's see, natal Jupiter over here. In the third house, uh, people will probably be outspoken about the ways in which others in foreign countries are treating them. Transing Saturn, sesquiquadrant the natal ascendant. And so the Russian people, they're going to be feeling frustration over most likely uh, death tolls and not getting enough financial help of their own from others. And let me go back here because it's interesting that Putin has the same thing, transcending Saturn, sesquiquadrant, natal ascendant. So they're probably it's probably going to be the same frustration for each. And also we have transing Jupiter opposite natal Mars. Should have a little N there for natal. And this is probably going to expand whatever anger Russian people are feeling over their situations. And they may be angry, not so much with Putin as with maybe the Communist Party or other groups that have some control over their life. Uh, Jupiter's in the 11th house, which represents group creativity, group activity. Jupiter is expansion. Some plans for expansion of some sort are going to be in conflict with the individual creativity of the people, and so they may get angry. Now, what's good news for Putin is that transiting Pluto is going to be the sextile, the natal midheaven. So this will help strengthen the leader of the country, which of course is Vladimir Putin. And transiting Saturn is going to be sextile, natal Neptune. What I expect is that the Russian people, they may be angry, they may be frustrated, feeling a lot of scarcity, but a lot of them are probably not ready to throw Putin out yet. But what they do want is they want the welfare state to work. They expect certain benefits from their government, and they want the benefits that have been promised. And so that may be what is going on in many ways. Uh, since Pluto is conjunct the cusp of the seventh house, this could also refer to uh, allies of Russia propping up Putin. It could also refer to even adversaries of Russia opening some backdoor communications that wind up being productive. We'll just have to wait and see. Uh, with certain countries and people like Putin and Russia, uh, those countries are often closed, shut down when it comes to information, and we often don't get information until there's no choice but to release that information. And that happens not only with communist countries like Russia and leaders like Putin, but also with leaders in Western countries, figures like King Charles or Pope Francis. Uh, the royal family doesn't like giving us precise health updates on its members. The Vatican does not like giving precise daily health updates on the Pope. That's just the way it is. Okay, now here you can see when things will be in effect uh, for Russia. And the longest lasting aspect looks like this Pluto sesquiquadrant Jupiter, which is just increasing in strength throughout August and also throughout September, not becoming exact. And this could create some difficulties for growth in Russia. Those problems could originate in what other countries are doing, such as economic sanctions. But whatever it is, Russia may have to adjust its plans for growth in some way. It's going to have some difficulties here, some turning points. And as we get toward the end of the lunar month, Saturn sesquiquadrant, the ascendant kicks in, Jupiter opposite Mars kicks in. People get angry. They're going to be a little angry at the beginning of the lunar month with Saturn square Mars, but that actually fades pretty quickly. Okay, we also had, let's see, transiting Jupiter square Jupiter here, but it fades so quickly after the start of the lunar month. I did not really talk about that. I did talk about transiting Jupiter, semi-square of the ascendant. I hope I mentioned that. If I skipped over it, that is going to create a tendency uh, for groups to go overboard a bit in some of their plans, maybe try and grow or expand some things a little bit too quickly. Okay, well, we'll just have to wait and see what news we get out of Russia and see what fits. Now, when we get to Ukraine, they're going to continue to have some problems, but a few lifelines are in this way. Saturn is making a sesquiquadrate with natal Chiron, so unfortunately, they are still being wounded a lot. Jupiter is making a sesquiquadrate to natal Saturn, which is in the second house. So they are still having difficulties expanding the resources that they need to stay afloat and to push back against this Russian invasion. Transiting Uranus makes a square to natal Venus. Uh, there are going to be sudden changes which affect people's values and how they feel about things, affects their sense of joy and pleasure. And unfortunately, Venus, natal Venus, is in the eighth house, which has to do with both death and other people's resources. There may be more deaths in Ukraine, sadly, more problems in getting, again, resources from other countries. We have transiting Saturn making a semi square to natal Saturn. So here's transiting Saturn. Natal Saturn is in the second house. Again, finances and resources, and Saturn is limitation, more frustration in getting what they need. And transiting Jupiter is semi-square natal Chiron. That can magnify the wounding that the people in the country are going through. Now, the good things are that transiting Saturn is going to be trine natal Pluto. Natal Pluto is up here in the 10th house, represents pretty much the leader of the country, Zelensky. So he will probably have long-term support. Transiting Saturn is also going to be sextile the North Node, which means that it is going to be, let's see, making uh, a trine to the South Node. So this is a good thing. This will help the country sustain whatever it is going through. And transiting Chiron, making a sextile to natal moon, this is going to help bring some healing to the people. There is still a lot of restriction in their lives, a lot of wounding, a lot of problems with resources and mounting death tolls. But it looks like they are going to endure, continue to support their leader or leaders, and that they will get some healing. And here we can see when things are in effect, for the most part, transiting Saturn trine natal Pluto, that endures throughout most of August, is exact on the 15th. The good aspect Saturn makes to the lunar nodal axis, that will be exact on the 5th and continues for a while. And transiting Chiron, sextile natal moon, that starts to kick in around the last week of August, and it becomes exact in the next lunar month on September 23rd. Okay. But all those frustrations, well, we got a lot of them which are going to be taking place in August and peak right before the start of the next lunar month. Okay, let's take a look at King Charles. I really wish we would get more information about his health released because sometimes things look pretty dire in his chart. He still has transient Pluto square his natal moon. This represents that Cancer, that health crisis. All summer, he's had transient Neptune square natal Uranus and natal Jupiter. And this could have to do with the effects of chemotherapy on the king, causing some weakness or confusion or some muddled thinking. Transiting Jupiter is making a semi-square to his natal moon. Most likely, he will try to still take on too much and overdo it, and that can impact his health and his ability to perform his royal duties. It could impact his status as king, as a royal. And I believe I've heard in the news that this fall, King Charles and Queen Camilla tend to visit all or several of the Commonwealth countries, but that their schedule has been pared back in order to try and prevent uh, King Charles from taking on too much. With Jupiter semi-square his natal moon, there is probably that tendency for him to want to take on too much at this point in time. And then we have transing Uranus making an opposition to his natal Chiron. This could be some sudden health crisis that occurs, some more sudden kind of wounding that takes place this month. On the good side, he has transiting Jupiter, trine his natal Venus. Venus is in his fourth house, which is his personal space. So this is going to help make his personal life much more enjoyable. And that's good. He also has transiting Jupiter, sextile his natal Pluto, which is in the first house. This will help strengthen him and improve his vitality. And he has transiting Neptune making a trine to his natal Chiron. In the context of his life, this could be the chemotherapy helping him turn a corner. This will help bring about some healing in response to these other health crises that he may be feeling. Okay, if we look here to see how long things last when they become exact, well, transiting Pluto square moon, that's been going on for a long while. It goes on not only all of this lunar month, but into the next one. And it is exact on August 11th, so that could be the more critical time. The transits, the squares from transiting Neptune to Jupiter and Uranus, they last this entire lunar month and start to fade out once we get into the next lunar month. The good times from these Jupiter transits, they're going to be most prominent for about a couple of weeks, shortly after, let's say about the first couple of weeks of August, a little bit into the third week. Those are exact on August 12th and 13th. The good news is Uranus in opposition to Chiron, that doesn't last a long time. It never gets very strong. And Neptune trine his Chiron, that kicks in around the last week of August, and then it's going to be gaining in strength. We have other problems that occur in September, but this is all going to be in the next lunar month, so we'll talk about that later. Now, if we take a look at Kate Middleton, Princess Kate, she still has transiting Chiron square her lunar nodal axis. So she's still in danger of being wounded by these health problems. But transiting Saturn is making a trine to her natal moon and a sextile to her natal Chiron. So the good news is that she's resilient. She will probably endure, regain health, and regain or get some healing. Okay, if we look at when these things are in effect, well, we start out pretty good with Saturn, trine moon, and sextile Chiron. I don't believe I talked about Saturn, sextile sun. That is in effect right at the start of the lunar month, but it fades quickly, so I did not include it on the list. But the main point is, see, the month is starting out well. But then as we go along, Chiron square the new lunar natal axis, that begins to intensify. It becomes exact in the next lunar month on September 16th. So she may have a bit of a relapse as we get as August proceeds and we get into September. But just to give a peek ahead, she will have a saving grace, a lifeline next month with Jupiter sextile the ascendant, which can boost her vitality. At the same time, Chiron will be squaring her, in opposition to her natal Saturn. That becomes a exact on September 30th. And so this coupled with transiting Chiron square the lunar nodal axis, yeah, she could have some little bit of a relapse in September, unfortunately. Otherwise, things are looking good for her. Now, if we look at the United Kingdom, well, there are going to be some problems for leadership issues involving both growth, Jupiter, and probably, let's say, fiscal discipline, Saturn. But there are also going to be some good things going on. So I think things are going to be more typical. We have transiting Saturn, square natal Mercury. Mercury's in the third house of communication. Saturn is in the sixth house that rules the labor force. The common workers probably going to be feeling frustrated and they're going to voice their frustrations. We have transiting Jupiter making a semi-square to natal Jupiter in the 10th house. The prime minister, the leaders, the party that's ruling the United Kingdom, they're probably going to try and overdo it, try and promise too much or take on too much or try and do too much. There may be a little friction with what perhaps allies and other countries want them to do and what they feel they have to do in order to grow and prosper. And we have, let's see, transiting Jupiter, opposite Mercury. So transiting Saturn, transiting Jupiter, and natal Mercury, they're actually forming a T-square. So there are going to be frustrations and disagreements over how to get out of whatever pickles they find themselves in. And it's probably going to be issues surrounding uh, the United Kingdom's workforce, the common man in that country. Now, assisting them, we have transiting Chiron, trine natal Saturn. So there may be some long-term collaborations with allies in other countries that bring about healing of some sort to the United Kingdom. Okay, and Saturn rules the fourth house, which represents the homeland down here. So long-term plans put in place that can help heal the homeland. Transiting Saturn is also, it's going to be trine natal Neptune. Neptune is in the second house of finances and resources, what people value. So I think part of what's going on is there may be an effort on the part of the United Kingdom to deliver to the people, the common person, all the services that they have promised to that person. And in some respects, both Russia and United Kingdom are welfare states. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that they try and provide services for their people. They see it as a duty for the government to take care of the people. And I think that all countries should do as much for the people as the United Kingdom tries to in terms of free healthcare and other things that are necessary for life. So I think there are going to be probably frustrations. Maybe people aren't getting what they believe they're owed or promised, but uh, it looks like the powers that be will work to deliver. And transiting Jupiter, making a trine to natal Venus. This is going to create some happiness, some prosperity, and so I think those things promised will be delivered. Now, if we look to see what's most prominent in this month, well, the good aspects are going to last a while. Chiron trine Saturn. Let's see where that is. Chiron up here, trine Saturn. Yeah, so probably economic or other agreements with allies and other countries are going to really help the United Kingdom in the long term. And that's going to help get their social services back on foot. Saturn trine Neptune. And it's going to make the people happy during mid-August, transiting Jupiter trine Venus, exact on the 13th. But there's still going to be these underlying frustrations. Saturn square natal Mercury throughout the entire month of August, exact on the 18th. And in middle part of August, that's when the leaders could try maybe bite off more than they can chew or try to overpromise or overdo things with transiting Jupiter, semi-square natal Jupiter. And that's when things get a lot more frustrating. Saturn sesquiquadrate natal Jupiter and Jupiter in opposition to Mercury. And let's see, where is natal Jupiter? Yeah, uh, that's where people are probably going to get frustrated with the ruling party since Jupiter is in the 10th house. Uh, so it's not all going to be, nice and rosy all the time. There are going to be long-term solutions to problems that probably get implemented. Some things done that are going to give people relief that they're going to like, but particularly in the latter part of August, people are going to probably get a little bit more frustrated uh, and criticize their leader or leaders more. And the government may have promised too much, may have taken on more than they can do or deliver. And let's see, we had Jupiter opposite Mercury. Yeah, so that's where you get a lot of vocal opposition to things. Okay. And lastly, we have Pope Francis. In previous months, we had nothing but red here, which meant nothing but challenges. Now we have some blue, some lifelines being thrown at him. Nonetheless, this could be a very critical time for the Pope, and let's see why. We'll begin with transiting Uranus, making a sesquiquadrate to natal Mercury. And Mercury is very close to conjunct his descendant, the cusp of the 7th house, which represents others. The sesquiquadrate denotes some sort of friction. Sesquiquadrates, like semi-squares, they're turning points or breaking points. And Uranus, it always causes some breakup of the existing pattern. At its best, it's a flash of creativity which changes things. At its worst, it's just chaos, things fall apart. So something is changing in his relationships with others or with his ability to maybe communicate with others. Uh, let's see, we have transiting Saturn next, opposite natal Neptune. This could be some sort of infection occurring, some sort of health crisis that happens to him at this time. And we have, let's see, transiting Jupiter is going to square this natal Saturn. Now let me put several of these together at once. He's got transiting Saturn opposite his natal Neptune. He also has transiting Saturn conjunct his natal Saturn. He's going through a Saturn return. And then he has transiting Jupiter square both his natal Saturn and his natal Jupiter. So these four transits here, they're all working together. They're all making a conjunction and a T-square. Jupiter is just magnifying the problem. Uh, Saturn is, it's going to create a lot of restriction in his life at this point. His relationships with others may change. And like I said, he may have a problem with his voice. He may have a problem speaking or communicating uh, with others. And Mercury, it also rules Gemini, which is on the cusp of the 10th house. This could be, cusp of the 12th house. The 12th house is the last house in this cycle, represents the end of things. That could be rather ominous. It could be some past karma uh, coming back, some illness or hidden enemies. You never know. Uh, you're, so there's some ominous things that can happen here. There's a lot of restriction that will probably occur in the life of Pope Francis this month. Jupiter magnifies it. There is a heightened risk of some sort of health problem or health crisis going on. And furthermore, at the same time that Jupiter is making a square to his natal Saturn, it's also going to be squaring transiting Saturn. So the square by transit of transiting Jupiter to transiting Saturn that is exact on August 19th, that is really going to affect him personally because he's going to have the same transit in his natal chart from transiting Jupiter to natal Saturn. Now, on the good side, he has transiting Chiron in the ninth house, trine his north node, which means it's sextile the south node. So there will be intense efforts to bring healing to the Pope. He will have transiting Neptune, making a trine to his natal Pluto, and Pluto's in his first house. So some sort of medication or treatment may help him improve and sustain his life. And transiting Jupiter is going to be making a trine to his natal Mars. This will help invigorate him. The Mars is energy, has a connection with your physical energy, definitely. So it's another indicator of vitality, and the trine from Jupiter will just simply help improve that. So I never know exactly what's going to happen. As I say, these are not, this is not fate. This is just a weather report. It tells us what things are more likely to occur. And we can never mention every single possibility. What actually happens may be a likely possibility that I haven't specifically talked about. But definitely, a health crisis at this time is quite possible, but relief from other sources is also quite possible. Okay, if we look to see when things are going to be in effect, well, transiting Uranus, sesquiquadrate natal Mercury, that is strong throughout this entire lunar month, and it looks like all of the next lunar month. The good aspects from transiting Chiron to the natal lunar nodal axis, that peters out shortly after mid-month. That transiting Jupiter square natal Saturn, that's going to be exact on August 13th. The transit between transiting Jupiter and transiting Saturn, that square is exact on August 19th. So he really gets impacted quite strongly between August 13th and August 19th. Saturn conjunct his natal Saturn. His Saturn return is exact on September 1st, one day before the new moon, the next new moon, and transing Jupiter, square natal Neptune, that is exact on the 31st. So this T-square I talked about between these transiting planets and his natal planets, that is going to be a major influence on him pretty much after the beginning of the lunar month, all the way until the end of the lunar month, and some of it going even into the next lunar month. Okay. And that Uranus sesquiquadrate Mercury, that stays strong throughout all of August and all of September. Okay. Well, it looks like that is going to be it. So let me stop sharing my screen here. And I'm back. Let me just double check one thing. Make sure that that was indeed my last slide. And yep, that was my last slide. So, as we used to say in Texas, stick a fork in, it's done. Ah, this ends part two of my presentation for the upcoming lunar month on how it will impact various countries and people. I hope you find it informative. Let's keep an eye on these countries and on these people and see how things actually turn out in practice. Again, what I talk about here is only half of the equation. It's only the weather report. What I don't know is how individuals and countries on their own initiative will react to the astrological weather that surrounds them. And sometimes they, instead of getting the worst possible outcome, they will get the best possible outcome. It's very much, as I say, like the hurricane reports, where you see what they call the spaghetti lines, where uh, they're all we know where things are beginning, but where things are going to end, well, the spaghetti lines are often all over the place. So let's hope that various people and countries release more information about what's going on with them, and that will help us check the accuracy of these astrological weather reports even more. And so, again, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you join me for more presentations. But for now, I'll just say so long and be well.